Runners over 35. It's possible to get faster, not by doing more. You get faster by doing less on purpose. See, the train less, run faster model isn't some gimmick that I just made up. It comes from the Furman first study that proved that runners training just 3 days per week of running plus two cross training days improved marathon times by 20 minutes and VO2 max by 4 to 5%. They ran less, but still trained their cardiovascular system 5 days a week through cycling, swimming, elliptical, and other low impact aerobic work. In other words, it's less pounding, right? But not less training, right? They're still training 5 days a week. Just 3 of those days are running. See, by the end of this video, you'll know how to train only 3 times per week on the road and still get faster, stay injury free while building real endurance, keep your aerobic fitness high without overtraining your joints. We're going to break this down into 3 parts. The 3 quality runs or 3 key run system, cross training and strength, recovery and progression. So the 3 run system, right, it's modeled after that first model that Furman proved that you don't need to run, again, 6 to 7 runs a week, just 3 quality runs with a purpose, right? So a speed day, right, improve your VO2 max. Think things like 400-meter repeat, 800-meter repeats, right? So a speed day or a track day, a tempo run to improve your lactate threshold, right? So do that like 20, 30, 45 minutes, right, once a week. And then a long run to improve your aerobic endurance, your aerobic engine, 60 minutes to 2 hours or so, right? An hour to 2 hours, build your endurance. So, I used to be one of those folks when I first started running, like, oh, I have to train 5, 6, 7 days a week, right? So I was running almost every day of the week. And then I was getting sore. My legs were tired all the time. I kept getting all these overuse injuries. And I was actually starting to slow down. And it's not until I cut it down my running to just 3 days a week, I started getting faster and less pain. I started less of these overuse injuries. I was still training 5 days a week. I was still doing cross train. So instead of running, I swapped running for biking. So I just hopped on a bike or elliptical, do that twice a week, and then continue with my run training 3 days a week. So it is possible to improve, right? There's multiple ways to get better at the sport of running, and you don't have to necessarily train you don't have to run every single day of the week if you don't want to. Number 2, cross training and strength training. Here's the caveat. Although you're running less, you're not training less. So you're still training your cardiovascular system, doing aerobic or endurance style training, but just in a different modality, right? So it's not running. Now you're doing cycling, swimming, elliptical on the cross training days, right? You're distributing it smarter. So cross training twice a week, even 3 times a week if you need to, but it'll be cycling, swimming, or brisk walking. You could also do a rower. You can go on elliptical, all right? And, you get your heart rate going up. You want to measure your heart rate or just your time doing the train, right? So maybe you cycle for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and then you can actually do a cycle workout. You could do different types of workouts for the cross-training days. Don't think you always have to do a steady state, 30-minute bike ride where you can vary. You could do a tempo bike ride, right? So there's different types. Almost think like a triathlete, how the triathlete has different workouts for their bike and swim. It's not always the same workout, right? So this keeps your cardio, your heart honest without joint stress. Because the thing is, running is high impact. Running could put anywhere from 2 to 3 times of impact forces every time that foot hits the ground. But when you're doing something like biking, swimming, it's low impact, so less stress on the body, less stress on the joints. Also want to do strength training, right? At least twice a week of strength training. I recommend full body strength training, single set to fatigue. Now there's different ways to do it. I like the single set because it's more time efficient, and you could pair with the cross training, right? You don't have to have a separate strength training day and a separate cross training day. You can do them back to back. If you're going to the gym, might as well do your cross training and your strength training back to back instead of having to have like a whole separate hour for strength training, a separate hour for the cross training. All right, because with the strength training, if you do too many sets, like multiple sets, you also overly fatigue your nervous system. You may also put yourself at risk for overuse injuries because now you're overly fatigued from the strength training, and you take away from your energy bank to train running or just go about your day-to-day life. So with just doing single set to fatigue or momentary muscular failure, right? Exercise like squats, compound movements, lunges, deadlifts, calf raises, hip hinges, training your core, planks, side planks. One strong set to near failure beats 5 sloppy ones, right? Build resilience, not soreness. Now, if you really love strength training, sure, you could do multiple sets, but again, it's not the most time efficient. And again, it may be taking away too much of your energy and leave you overly fatigued. So while I was rehabbing like my own knee pain, I found that hey, I had to just cut down my strength volume. I was still strength training, but I was doing quality strength training sets. And then with the cross training, it was such a huge saver. Instead of trying to do recovery runs, I used to do easy runs, but I swapped out the easy runs for just doing a bike ride or going for a swim or jumping on elliptical. It helped me keep my engine strong while running less. Right, I was still running 3 days per week, but then doing the cross training and the strength training really helped me rebuild my body and then have it recover from the running days. So, and then the third thing you want to know is recovery and progression. See, the secret isn't always just doing more running, right? Yes, more running can help to an extent, but again, you don't have to run 6 or 7 days a week. It's also the recovery. Recovery days do matter, right? Especially if you're injury prone. Are there people who could get away with running 7 days a week? Sure, we all know that person who does a run streak has been doing a run streak for years. Cool, good for them. However, if you're injury prone, you keep getting injured, you might want to swap out those recovery days or those easy recovery runs, because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm doing a recovery run. But if you're doing the run, are you truly recovering on a recovery run, especially if you keep getting injured? So instead of doing a recovery run, just swap out from a complete rush from running that day. And make sure you're also sleeping at least 7 hours a night. Eating protein and fiber throughout the day. Make sure you're getting enough protein for tissue repair, rebuilding tissue, about zero 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Hydrate daily. Do mobility work, right? Anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. If, let's say you have stiff knees, do mobility work for your stiff knees, right? You may have to target the hips, knees, and ankles, do the entire lower body. But if you're notoriously stiff and it keeps getting injured, oftentimes mobility work can help decrease the pain. And track certain metrics, right? Hey, track your consistency. Are you staying consistent with the workouts week by week? Not just the runs, but also the cross training and also the strength training and the mobility work. I know it's a lot, but if you stay consistent with it, you can get results. Oftentimes people say they don't get results with a training program. And again, don't get me wrong, multiple types of training programs exist, but people who don't get results with them oftentimes do it incomplete, or they're just not consistent enough for a long enough time period to see results, right? So typically it takes about 6 to 8 weeks and you'll start seeing like, whoa, you start seeing some gains with the training program. Again, you have to monitor your intensity. Like when you're doing the speed workouts, do the speed workouts correctly. When you're doing the threshold workouts, do them correctly. And same thing with the strength training, the cross training. And then follow like a 4 week block, right? Maybe 2 weeks you start ramping up, 2 or 3 weeks, then you deload on the third or fourth week, and you do that for like a training block. So like let's say every month, uh, those 3 weeks you kind of ramp up. 1 week you kind of deload. You keep cycling that for your designated training block, whether you're training for a 5K, half marathon, etc. The general principle is the same. Right. So better recovery, right? Taking away these junk miles, because I was, again, that person who would run 6 days per week. But then some of those running miles were just junk miles, keeping me tired all the time, making me feel like I was running on bricks. Right. So by just removing those junk miles, having true recovery days from running, right? Just hopping on a bike, doing like an easy recovery, doing some mobility work, helped me just improve my pace and just run healthier. So if you're 35, 45 and older and want to run fast without breaking down, join my free school community. Here you'll get some weekly tips, mobility routines, and I'll even have a knee pain relief guide in the school community. So grab the link in the description and join today.